We eventually say a very good afternoon to Noa Hoffman, political correspondent at The Sun. How are you, Noa?
I'm very hot, but, you know, slowly getting through. We don't have nice aircon here like in the talk building, sadly.
Well, you see, the thing you have to do, it'd be nice to see your face. I don't understand why it takes so long for me not to be able to see it. But I will say this to you. Why didn't you come here? Are you in The Sun's offices?
Yes.
Well, come downstairs. I've got beautiful aircon. I've got pina coladas. Everything's fine.
Well, you know who to speak to, Jeremy, to give me that permission for next time to leave the Sun office.
You mean the new boss?
The new big dog, yes, exactly.
How is Big Dog Elsom treating you? Is he all right?
He continuously tells us that we've never had it so good.
This is brilliant. I love it. Fantastic.
So I would be too scared to suggest anything otherwise.
Lovely to have you on. I wanted to. You're in Westminster. I didn't realise that you're not in the building. I just wanted to get your take, really, in terms of the sense of what's happening today in Westminster. This benefit, this welfare bill, the vote is tonight. We've read an awful lot in the paper, Noah, about how, he's scrabbling around. At one point, they were talking upwards of 120 rebels. I think at the beginning of the weekend, they felt like the concessions were enough. But there's a lot of people saying that whatever happens tonight, many will vote against, and this is a major shake to his authority. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. It's a huge embarrassment. It shows that Sir Keir Starmer doesn't have control of all these backbenchers who are meant to be elected, actually, in 2024 as so-called stormtroopers. I mean, this goes well beyond the usual subjects. But to make matters worse, you know, we had these major concessions to sort of quell the rebellion from around 120 Labour MPs down to around 40-50. But there's actually now talk that even more concessions will be made at the 11th hour, still because of fears of abstention. So the whips just have no grip on how big this rebellion is and what they need to do to sort of save face for Keir Starmer, although the chance to do that very much passed a long time ago. So we're actually looking like there might be another concession on the way too in the next few hours. Do you think there's any chance, Noah, of him losing this vote tonight, or is it just actually a massive dent to his popularity and his authority within the Parliamentary Labour Party, I guess? Yes, so I think the whips will literally do whatever it takes to ensure that there isn't any chance of him losing, even if that means effectively rolling back on pretty much the entire thing, which, you know, some may argue is the same thing as killing the bill anyway. So I don't think he will lose, but absolutely this is a huge humiliation. It's very embarrassing, and the fact that Prime Minister and his team didn't have the foresight to, you know, get a grip on this before it really exploded and got out of control. I mean, I'm just watching in the comments now, and some of the language used by MPs from his own side, what they're accusing the government of, talking about, you know, people committing suicide, talking about them, you know, being a sort of cosplaying Tory austerity. These are his MPs. That is really embarrassing. And how can you convince the country that, you know, you're in control of their finances and in control of the economy if you can't even convince your own side?
I'm going to take that word from you today, because I think that's utterly brilliant. I keep talking about his political antennae, or lack of it, how he doesn't seem to be able to smell out what the hell people are going to think. Foresight, great word. Anybody with a brain cell, Noah, would have gone, not a good idea to upset 10 million pensioners, right? Anybody with a brain cell would have gone, no, the farming community isn't rich. Actually, they pass it down, they provide food. They're actually the lifeblood of this country. Anybody with foresight would have gone, I shouldn't have my veterans on the streets while migrants are coming to 4-star hotels and having their backsides wiped. But he doesn't, to me, doesn't have that foresight. He can't seemingly smell it out. And this is just, within 12 months, another massive example of his inability, I think, to call it correctly first time. And it's, you know, I never thought 12 months ago they'd be this much of a shambles, did you?
No, I didn't. In fact, I thought around the time of the election that they were sort of on a high, and because their election operation, having been in, with both the Tory bus, the so-called campaign bus, and on the Labour bus, I mean, there was a huge difference with Labour being so smooth, so slick, so on top of detail. They just performed really well in the election if you compare them to the Tories. But how that has all sort of spiraled out of control so quickly is actually probably one for the history books.
I couldn't agree more.
Because I do think this is one of the worst starts of government I think we've seen in a very long time.
By a mile. Can I just also, loads in the Sun about this today and yesterday. Today the chief rabbi has called for the BBC, the way they broadcast that Bob Villain vile IDF death chant as a national shame. I mean, I'm not asking you to get political. I mean, I ranted on all day yesterday. We've got a woman who wrote some particularly nasty things about the Muslim community who was put in jail for 31 months when, frankly, I would have thought the idea for Lucy Connolly would be some community service with the Muslim community. But this vile piece of whatever is allowed to stand on stage and basically call for people to kill Jews. And what was really interesting, because I can see him on screen now with Gulf of America on his hat, was they meandered yesterday and Friday and Saturday and Sunday, the British government. Donald Trump woke up, and 20 minutes after he woke up yesterday, they revoked that vile human being's visa and said, I don't want you in America. That's what we want in this country. Strong, strong leadership, isn't it?
Yeah, I wouldn't hold your breath for that, especially when we have a particularly weak and pathetic cabinet minister in Lord Hermer, not even an elected politician, obsessed with international law. Do you think China or America will give a F word about that? I mean, it is just embarrassing. So
Lord Hermer, wasn't he he's one of Starmer's longest old allies. He's a left-wing human rights lawyer. He's the one who advocated Lucy Connolly stayed in jail, isn't he?
Exactly. And whenever anyone mentions two-tier justice, Lord Hermer is the first to get on his high horse and suggest those people, are actually, quote, disgusting, unquote. But how you can look at the case of Lucy Connolly and look at the case of Bob Villain and think that everything is going smoothly and fairly in the justice system, you just can't. And you know what? You can, if everyone was being locked up over very incendiary language, then that would be a different conversation. But it's the fact that there are different punishments for different comments and different people that is really the crux of this problem. Couldn't
put it better myself. And also congrats again to the Sun. Cops have begun cracking down on those illegal migrants who've been working as delivery drivers. We covered this on Monday and last week. Great bit of work by Thomas Godfrey and the team, and actually making a difference, doesn't it? Hasn't the Home Secretary said good on the Sun today?
Yeah, she has, and so I think the delivery companies as well are thanking us for this investigation. I'm not sure that's a very genuine thank you, because they, I don't know, may enjoy the cheap labour that they get off the back of this. But we had the Home Secretary host a roundtable with these companies. We had an immigration raid, which there's a big spread covering all of those details in the Sun. It was a really fantastic piece of investigative journalism by our news reporter Thomas Godfrey, and it just goes to show how fantastic journalism investigations into what's going on with the illegal migrant crisis can actually produce results. And we have seen the Home Secretary move quickly off the back of our reporting.
You're amazing. Please come on every week. Don't let me down. I'm going to phone Elsom on my private line now and say, get her a fan. It's an absolute outrage. Noa Hoffman.
Ask him for a pay rise for me as well.
I'll do that as well. Noa Hoffman, political correspondent at The Sun. Can you get me Jack Elsom? I need a fan and a pay rise. It's